trifling for deciding to only pay child support but not be involved in my kid's life? I dated my ex-girlfriend for about 6 months. From the start, I made it clear that I didn't want kids yet. She was already a mom to one child and told me she didn't want more either. She even mentioned that in our state, termination is legal up to 23 weeks, so I assumed we were on the same page. Never assume. We had a few careless nights and I got her pregnant. At first, I thought we followed through with what we had originally discussed, but she suddenly changed her mind and refused to get a termination. It was shocking to me at first, but I had to accept the reality because it was ultimately her choice. In the end, I left her because we couldn't come to an agreement. Now she wants me to be a part of the kid's life, but I honestly don't see myself doing that. I don't necessarily hate her, but I do resent her decision, and I don't want to be tied to her for the next 18 years. I'm fine with paying child support and taking care of my financial responsibilities, but I'm struggling ethically and morally with the idea of not being involved in my kid's life at all. So, am I trifling for leaving my kid and just paying child support? Rehive, you already know what to do. Drop in the comments what your thoughts are so that we can get the verdict of whether this OP is trifling. Let's go ahead and jump into the pre-verdict. Is OP trifling in this situation? I'm going to have to say no, even though I am a family lawyer. This is my bread and butter. I'm going to have to say OP is not trifling. It seemed like the parties have an agreement, and maybe they should have came to a clearer agreement, but he had an expectation. The girlfriend had an expectation. I definitely understand that it can be an emotional decision once you put yourself in that situation. I think both of them could have took way better precautions into not getting pregnant, some careless nights. If you know that you don't want to have kids, you shouldn't be having careless nights. Pregnancy is 100% preventable. If you know you don't want to have kids, you know what you have to abstain from, but most people don't want to do that. So it's important when you are in a relationship to come to a decision of what's to happen if you do decide to get pregnant. Unfortunately, in some situations, the woman does have the right because ultimately it is her body, it is her choice. A man cannot force her to get rid of a baby. But at the same time, the woman has to be willing to accept the consequences of the man not wanting to be involved. And at least he is willing to pay the child support instead of being involved in the kid's life or completely walking out or just quitting his job and not paying child support at all. I'm going to have to say that OP is not trifling in the situation. He thought they had an understanding. She went against that understanding. He's still meeting his financial obligations. I'm sorry for the kid, but the mom made a bad decision for the kid. Should people really be forced to pay child support? Maybe. Am I trifling for convincing my friend to stop paying child support? You sound like a bad friend, but let's see. My friend Ty had 2 kids with his ex-girlfriend D. They only dated for 2 months, but 2 weeks after they broke up, D said that she was pregnant with twins. D was crazy. She is rude, manipulative, condescending, and lazy, which came out in the 2nd month that they were together. Oh, so he's basically saying he don't think he's the daddy. Okay, let's see where it goes. Both Ty and I grew up in poverty and without fathers, so he was adamant in being a good father to his daughters and providing for them. It was to the point that he was giving away half of his paycheck to D, about $3,000 out of $6,000 of his monthly income. He also spent every weekend, a few lunch breaks a week, and various trips with his daughters, all without D, who was only interested in him bringing her back food or paying for a trip so she could leave and do her own thing without actually spending time with her kids. Everyone knows that Ty puts his kids first and is super proud of them. Oh, he sounds like a good dad. He's the one who takes them to school, helps with homework, sets up their birthday parties, go to parent-teachers conferences, etc., all without D, who couldn't care less. D and Ty got into an argument during my birthday party about changing the girls' school. Ty wanted to change it to a better school out of D's bad neighborhood, and D wanted them to stay where they were. She argued that she has full custody, so it's her decision. He said he takes them to school, he goes to parent-teacher conferences, does everything regarding school, etc., so it should be his say. She says that she's the mom and it's her decision, and he says that he's the father and he gets a say too. I agree with Ty here. Then she decided to be petty and drop the bombshell that neither child was his. I mean, they're twins. So, if one is not his, you would assume the other one is not his. But I guess anything is possible. She admitted that she cheated on him while they were together, and she decided Ty would be the dad because he made the most money. She even told him to get a paternity test. Turns out she was right. Neither was his. He was devastated. He wouldn't talk to anyone for a month. Ty eventually went back to D and said that he loved his daughters and wanted to be in their lives anyway. D said no, and that his attitude and overreaction to the news meant that she had to do more work with the kids, everything he used to do, and that he was selfish. She threatened to get a restraining order if he tried to see the kids again. I don't think that's how restraining orders work, but he believed her. This is where I may be trifling. When he talked to me about what he should do, I told him to at least stop paying child support, which he had not stopped doing yet. That she had been lying to him to steal half of his income for years. He listened and Dee got all shocked Pikachu face and went online, blasting him online. She and the kids have to move to a smaller apartment, live with fewer luxuries, etc. Everyone saw him as a great dad, and now they see him as a deadbeat. The girls he loves are also suffering because Dee relies on a minimum wage job, her first job ever. And now Ty's family blames me. They claim that my advice ruined everything. I feel like I'm getting more hate than Dee. Am I trifling? Pre-Hive, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's jump into the pre-verdict. I'm going to have to say that OP is actually not trifling. I was wrong in the beginning. This was a live reaction if you could not tell. OP is right. Ty should not be paying child support. I definitely understand that this is all new and he probably feels very hurt right now. He's dealing with a lot of emotions, but he should not be paying child support for children that are not his. Now, depending on what state OP and Ty are in, he could still be liable for taking care of these kids because he held them out to be his own. And if he signed their birth certificates or a voluntary declaration of parentage, he could still be legally included as their father and he can go to court and actually get custody of the kids. But I would suggest, if I was giving legal advice, but I'm not today, that he actually goes to the court and figure out if he can get some rights to these kids. Because in California, if he signed a voluntary declaration of parentage, these kids are obviously in school already. So this is probably well beyond the 2 years to overturn the voluntary declaration of parentage. He's also been holding these kids out as his own and paying child support for a woman that he hasn't even been with since before the kids were ever born. He can probably actually get rights to these kids. I'm saying that OP is not trifling for telling him not to pay child support, but Ty can also potentially put himself back on the line for paying child support while also getting parenting rights and could potentially get full custody. If he's making more money and he's the one doing everything all for the kids, he can actually get more rights than Dee. So Ty might want to look into talking to an attorney and seeing if he actually has any rights to these kids, especially depending on what state he's in. Overall, OP is not trifling. Am I trifling for stopping child support payments for one child but not the other? Probably. I have recently had some health issues causing me to be on sick leave. I am no longer receiving the payments from work and it is just my wife's income. We have our daughter together, 3-year-old Charlie. I have 2 other children from 2 previous relationships, 12-year-old Annie and 7-year-old Ben. Neither have court-mandated child support payments. We have just our own arrangements, which has been fine for years. Due to the decrease in income, we have had to cut costs. We now only send Charlie to childcare for the free periods provided and are looking at downsizing. As per my instructions, my wife is now sending child support payments for Annie, but not Ben. Ben's mother has started hiring a cleaner to help around the house, which shows me that she has more disposable income. I therefore feel that she doesn't need the child support. My mother is now angry with me for stopping the payments to Ben if Annie is still receiving them. I could be trifling for stopping the payments for Ben, but I don't feel like I can afford them and he doesn't need them. So, am I trifling? Dude, you cannot do that. Rehab, let me know your thoughts, but absolutely you are trifling. Honestly, he doesn't have a child support order, so technically he doesn't need to be paying any child support at all. The mothers can take him to court to figure out what they need to do to go further with this. But stopping child support for one kid and not the other one, like, yeah, you're trifling. It makes it seem like you care about one kid more than the other. And then now you have this other kid. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, you could at least talk to the mothers and say, hey, would you guys be okay with me reducing this? Because right now I don't have the money. And then give them an equal amount instead of just saying, oh, well, you don't need it and you do need it, so I'm going to just keep giving it to you. Absolutely, OP is trifling in this situation. Order in the court, man. Should you get a better job in order to pay more child support? Am I trifling for not getting a better job so that I can pay more child support? I work part-time and make around $2,000 a month since the rest of my expenses are taken care of, and I want some spending money that no one else can tell me what to do with it. About a year ago, a girl and I hooked up a couple of times and she got pregnant. and decided to keep the kid even though I wanted her to do otherwise, but it is what it is. When we went to court to get custody decided, I gave up full custody because I wasn't ready to be a dad so early, and I got ordered to pay $400 a month in child support. I've paid the money on time every month. So recently she asked me to go find a better job so I could help support the kid more, and I told her I had no reason to get a better job since I already have everything I really want and don't feel like getting a more difficult job just so I can help her out. She yelled at me for being a bad father, which is fair, but I never wanted to be a father in general, and she was the one who wanted to keep the kid. So I don't think I should have to give up my personal lifestyle to help with a kid I didn't want. Am I trifling? Bree, you know what to do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Pre-verdict. I am going to have to say OP is not trifling. Although the title of the Reddit post sounds like he's trifling, no, I actually don't think he's trifling. This lady knew where this man was at the time that she decided to be hooking up with him and getting pregnant. This was his income prior to conceiving the child. This lady knew what she was getting into. You can't force someone to go get a better job when they were already living a good lifestyle before you hooked up with them and decided to get pregnant or decided to keep the baby. So in any other situation, like if he would have quit his job and worked a lower paying job or something like that, then I would say he's trifling. But in this situation, like, no, she already knew what it was when she decided to keep the kid. So no, as bad as it sounds, OP is not wrong here. Not trifling. Should someone be able to quit their job in order to avoid child support? Am I trifling for quitting my job to be a house husband and going to court to get 50-50 visitation and remove child support? That's a lot. My 36 male and ex-wife 35 female have 2 kids, 7 female and 6 male. We have been divorced for 3 years now, and we are both happily remarried to other people. We were bad spouses, but are now decent friends and good parents. My ex-wife has primary custody, so currently I get them every other weekend and 2 to 3 evenings a week. It also helps that my wife, 38 female, and I live just a few miles away in the next town. Since the divorce, my ex-wife has been a stay-at-home mom, and her husband, 36 male, has a good job making $120,000. I have a good job making $150,000 a year, but my wife has always been the breadwinner and recently received a sizable promotion and got a raise up to $280,000 a year. I've always wanted to go back to school, but with my work schedule, I was never able to do it. My wife and I have been talking, and she thinks I should quit my job, go back to school, and be a house husband. She already made the joke about getting me the French maid outfit, haha. Seriously though, this would allow us to spend more time with the kids too. We've been going over this for a few weeks now, talking it through on how it will reduce our income, retirement savings, and how it would affect our marriage, etc. We also talked about how we could logistically do it with the kids too. Luckily, since we live close to my kids' school, it should be easy for me to do school drop-offs and pickups so I could do a 50-50 arrangement. Here's my concern. Since my ex-wife was a stay-at-home mom and I kept working, I have been paying her $2,000 a month. If I quit my job and went 50-50 custody, I think it would be fair to go back to court to get child support reduced to 0 since neither of us would be working and we would be 50-50. I talked to my ex-wife about this, and at first she was on board until I brought up the child support. She blew up, calling me selfish and only thinking about myself, and that since I have a good job, I need to keep it. I didn't want to get into a fight with her, so I hung up. But now I'm second guessing everything. Am I trifling for wanting to quit my job to be a house husband and go to court for 50-50 visitation and removing child support? Overall, I'm going to say you're not trifling for wanting to quit your job and being a house husband. Where you are trifling is for wanting to reduce the child support. And what I would really suggest if I was giving legal advice, but I'm not giving legal advice today, is you need to go talk to an attorney about how this could affect you because you have been making $150,000. You are voluntarily quitting to go back to school. Your wife makes income. You guys have the money to pay the child support. And although the mom's husband also has a good income, he's not responsible for financially taking care of your kids. And depending on what state you live in, you could still be responsible for paying child support even if you do have 50-50 custody. So what I would suggest to do is to go and talk to an attorney before you make this decision, because even if you quit your job and you get 50-50 custody, the court can still say, okay, well, you quit your job on purpose. We're going to leave your income at $150,000. This is voluntarily being underemployed, and your wife has the income to go ahead and pay for it. And while your wife is not responsible for financially taking care of the kids, and her husband is not financially responsible for taking care of the kids, y'all both decided to get with rich people and not work does not mean that the kids do not need to be taken care of. Since it sounds like the wife has always been a stay-at-home mom, I think that OP is going to have a way higher burden in saying that child support should be zero. If they agree to it, fine. It sounds like they don't agree to it, and mom might have to go back to work if their husband is required to take care of the entire family rather than having that extra $2,000 a month. I do think that 50-50 should reduce the child support if your income was already $150,000 when you guys landed on the $2,000, but it may not completely wipe it out because this is completely voluntary unemployment. If you had an issue with her being a stay-at-home mom and making your child support go up at that time, you should have addressed it at that time. Just quitting your job to do this, I don't think it's going to be beneficial either way. Beehive, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments in this one. Should you be allowed to work less just so you don't have to pay as much child support? I don't know. Am I trifling for working less after my divorce, even though it means my ex gets less child support? For the last 10 years, I have been working my butt off to earn money so my family could enjoy an excellent standard of living. This was apparently the wrong thing to do since it led to my wife deciding that since I was never home, she should bang other dudes. That's always not good. When I work out of town, I earn about $240,000 a year. Where I live, child support for 2 kids is about $3,300 monthly with that salary. Since my divorce, I went to 50-50 custody and I work in town, so I only earn $100,000 a year. My child support is actually only $800 a month. My ex is going nuts because she isn't getting what she thought she would. My lawyer has tried explaining that child support is based on income, and since I'm not working crazy hours to make lots of money for vacations and a huge house, I don't need to earn as much. She is telling everyone I'm trifling and I'm cutting back on my work to deprive the kids. That's BS. I have my kids half time, and since I cannot be out of town, I earn less. The kids have everything they need. So, am I trifling? And this case is completely opposite of the last case that we did. He literally had to actually work in town so that he can have equal custody of his kids from the beginning of the divorce. It sounds like the wife wanted to go out and sleep with other people while still having her husband fund her life, when that's not the reality of the situation. He is entitled to have time with his kids. He got 50-50 from the beginning, and child support is what it is. He should be able to work in town in order to be there for his kids versus working out of town in order to have this high lifestyle that they had while they were married. She didn't hold up her end of the bargain while being married for him to do this kind of work so that she can have this high lifestyle. He does not have to continue that after the divorce. I'm going to say that OP is not trifling in this situation. But of course, Beehive, let me know what y'all think. Child support is definitely a touchy subject, and I'm happy that we got through all the stories. Most of these people were not as trifling as I thought that they would be. Beehive, if you haven't already, make sure you're dropping your comments down below and letting me know what you think. If you made it this far in the video, make sure that you are subscribing and hitting the like button. It helps this channel out. And they have this new thing called doing hype points. So if you have hype points, go ahead and hype this video up. If you thought that these stories were wild, make sure you check out this next video where these other Redditors are going crazy as well. I will see y'all all on the next video. Bye.